Welcome into Around the Felt. Tonight's a good night. We get to talk about the San Francisco 49ers. Well, maybe it's not a good night if you're a Niners fan, because we have to talk about that 2024 season in which, boy, was it a big regression. But first, let me introduce my co-host, Reagan Loescher. Reagan, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm ready to roll. Energy's high. I'm ready to talk about a good team, or once a good team. Maybe had
Once
an
a
off
good
year.
team, way back in the day. Oh, I remember
Yeah.
back when I was a kid, when the Niners were actually a good ball club. But yeah, it was a tough season in Niner land. But it's funny because if you actually look at their statistical performance on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, you would not have expected a 6-11 season, Reagan. But thus, here we are with the Niners picking 11th in the draft. Seems so foreign.
Yeah, you can make a case that this was the biggest surprise of the season, or negative surprise of the season at the very least. I mean,
100%.
I don't think anybody thought there was a chance in hell that this team wasn't making the playoffs, let alone going 6-11 and being last in the NFC West too. On top of it,
yeah, well, everyone would have called you a moron if you predicted before the
bird
season
brain.
that the Niners would not make the playoffs. But that is what happens. Sometimes the injury bug bites you. Sometimes you just don't have it. You don't have the juice in the locker room. You don't have the motivation, and you can't close out those close games. And it's what we saw from the Niners this season. But Reagan, we'll start with you, my friends. What grade did you give this Niners season?
I feel like it's got to be an F. Like, well, I mean, what's the point? Like, you could say all the injuries and stuff and make all the excuses, but what does it matter? I mean, it's just a failure of a season, whether it's based off of injuries or play, like the whole entire season is just a wash. I mean, there's really not a whole lot to take away from it. I mean, Purdy basically took a step back. McCaffrey was never there. I mean, you lose Ayuk. Deebo's gone now, and he was just out of shape and had a terrible season. I mean, Kittle did have an incredible year. I mean, you can make a case he was the best tight end in football this year. On the defensive side of the ball, you had a lot of injuries as well, and just weren't the unit that you once were. So it was just like all over this team. It was just step backs and injuries and stuff. So there's not a whole lot to take away here. Like, if you ask a Niners fan, they might be like, oh, well, all these injuries, but still at the end of the day, I mean, you want to argue and be like, no, we deserve a D. Fine. But no, it's an F. I mean, there's not much to take away from, like, in Purdy, like I said, he just took a step back. And yeah, that may happen when you deal with all these injuries. And, even like some of your bright spots, like Jordan Mason, like you just traded him away, so I don't know. And this team was gutted in the offseason, but that doesn't go into their grade for the 2024 season. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But what do you give them?
I agree with you, man. That's an F of a season when you consider their expectations. When you look at the fact they were in the Super Bowl last year and then they go to a 6-win team, that's pretty terrible. And that's got to be a pretty depressing season as a Niners fan. Like, welcome to our world, right, Reagan? We're used to 6-win seasons.
Yeah.
This team just is not in recent memory. And when you look at their team going into the 2024 season, you were like, you know what? Like, they're geared, like they're fully loaded, ready to go, like ready to get back at the Chiefs and maybe give them another run and try to finally get it done. I think it wears on a team when you come so close a handful of times over the last several years and you just don't get it done. It's like all the work you put in, you play the extra month and a half of the season, like that wears on you at some point, not just physically, but also mentally. And then you get a later start to your offseason prep and getting ready for the spring. And it's just like, dude, I think it just wore this team down. And, you mentioned the injuries, like no McCaffrey basically all year. Ayuk tore his ACL after you gave him a bag. Deebo sucked. Like that's just, to put it bluntly, that's what happened. And yeah, Purdy wasn't as good. And I know we need to dive into his extension that's looming right now and what we think he's worth. But, we doesn't have a Christian McCaffrey or Brandon Ayuk. He wasn't as good. I don't want to say he was bad. He just wasn't the same Purdy. Like, I don't think Purdy was.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say Deebo. Bad. I was going to say Deebo was definitely bad.
No, Deebo was definitely bad, especially for his standards. But, Purdy just wasn't the same type of player. Like, I don't know, 2023, people are trying to throw him in the MVP conversation. I was like, all right, let's slow down here. Let's consider what he has. And also, like, you also have to take into account like Trent Williams missed a lot of time, and that's like the best left tackle in football, first ballot Hall of Famer, right? So that also hurts a ton. But Purdy took a step back, had 31 touchdowns, 11 picks in 23 in 17 games. This year, 20 touchdowns to 12 picks in 15 games. Not ideal. I will say, though, he did use his legs a lot more. He nearly doubled his rushing output from the year prior. He had 5 rushing touchdowns, which is, I mean, you'd like to see that element of his game. That's fine. But let's be honest here. For a team with Super Bowl aspirations year in and year out, led by Kyle Shanahan, missing the playoffs, I think is going to get you close to an F. But a 6-win season in which like everything fell apart and it seemed like nothing went right for you guys, yeah, that's an F.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm saying, there's just not a whole lot. Like, there's not a whole lot of positives to take away from it. Honestly, it's
what? Yeah, what are the positives? Like Garendo and Mason were solid, stepping in for McCaffrey, but now, as you mentioned, you traded Mason to Minnesota, right? So, which I actually think was a not a bad move, because the Niners are taking a running back in this class. I think that move signifies they're going to take one on day 2 to be their
Garando
long-term.
showed enough though that he could be the number 2.
But it's such a deep class. Like, you just added another pick. Like, you can just take another young back. Like, the Niners always seem to take a young back.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm sure whoever they get will be a stud. I mean, that's just the Kyle Shanahan system. I mean, it might not be McCaffrey level stud, but whatever he puts in there seems to put up pretty big numbers. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the draft. I mean, do you want to talk about like first, like what they lost? Because it seems like they lost just about everybody.
They lost a ton. Like, I'm not going to name every guy because they lost a lot of guys, but the big ones, Dre Greenlaw, him going down in the Super Bowl with the Achilles, it almost seemed like that's what took the air out of their tires in that game. Charvarius Ward, your number 1 corner, Aaron Banks, Leonard Floyd, Deebo, Hufanga, Jordan Mason. Like, dude, that's a lot of guys. Even on the defensive side of the ball, dude, like this defense was elite. And, you look at them last year, Reagan, it's so weird. They were 8th total defense in terms of yardage allowed, right? 5th passing defense. But they were the 27th scoring defense, dude. Like, that's crazy to me. They just couldn't get off the field. Like, I don't get it. For a team that's been so good. Now, they got your boy Robert Saleh back as the DC. I love that hire for him, bringing him back in the building. Do you like it?
Yeah, I mean, they had obviously a really good defense when he was there, so I don't mind it at all, bringing a familiar face. I mean, I believe, the first time around when they played the Chiefs, he was their DC. So, he's able to get this defense at a high enough level to put them in the Super Bowl. Will the defense be at that level? Probably not, because you lost so many talented guys there, but at least Saleh is a great defensive mind. He might not be head coach material, but he's definitely, top tier defensive coordinator in the league, I would say. So I have no issue with it at all. I thought he was going to go to Detroit. But, it was a good move for the Niners to bring him back.
For me, it felt like this Niners defense was so talented that they were almost coordinator proof. Didn't matter who was calling the shots. Like, they were so good on that side of the ball that they were going to get the job done. Now, with all the guys that they've lost, I think the Saleh hire has a little bit more significance.
Yeah, and you got to think, like, this is him coaching for his next coaching job, because he was getting, interviews with teams. So if he's able to turn this defense around with, not as many names as they've once had, I mean, he'll probably be one of the hottest head coaching names, because I think for sure somebody's going to give him an opportunity if, he's able to turn this defense into a big success and they are in the playoffs next year. Like, he's going to be one of the hottest names out there.
Yeah, and they still do have some talent in that defense. Like,
obviously
Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Lenore in the slot is shown a lot of promise. I like him. But, it does kind of sting not getting Joey Bosa to come over. The brother tandem would have been cool. Like, I thought they were for sure going to land Joey Bosa to pair with Nick Bosa, but ultimately he went to Buffalo, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, I was a little surprised on that too.
I want to get in the draft, but before we do, I want to touch on this Brock Purdy extension that's looming. Clearly, the Niners had to let all of these guys go because they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy 40, maybe 50 plus per year. I'm curious your thoughts. It seems like they have to give Purdy the extension. They don't have a better option. And he did take him to Super Bowl in 2023. Say what you want about what was around him, and maybe his physical limitations. But Purdy does run the Shanahan offense really well. He's accurate. He's smart. He's very on point. But I don't know, dude. $50 million a year to Purdy. Like, are you confident that he can elevate the guys around him?
No, I'm definitely not confident, but I understand. Like, you got to pay him. I mean,
You got
after
to.
the
You have to.
production, you can't let that walk. But I can't sit here and say I'm definitely confident that he can. I mean, the nice thing is they do have 11 draft picks this year, so that gives them the flexibility to go out and try to address a lot of these key losses to this team. Also, I know what was it? They have 2 third-rounders, 2 fourth-rounders, so and 2 fifth-rounders as well, plus their first and second. So
They're adding it back. That's for sure.
Eight of those 11 are in the first 5 rounds. So that's very nice. Gives them a lot of opportunities to hopefully hit on a lot of key needs. Especially because you don't know what Ayuk's gonna be recovering. You don't know how long that's gonna take. I mean, obviously you drafted Pearsall last year and you have Jawan Jennings, so I don't think the Deebo loss is that bad, but I still wouldn't rule out them going for another wide receiver in the draft as well.
Yeah, I could see it happening for sure. I mean, I will say Pearsall, for being pretty quiet all season, he had some big games at the end of the year where you were like, okay, like this is why they took him in the first round. With the emergence of Jawan Jennings, like you're pretty confident with him as your number 2 or 3, I think. It's just like, what does Ayuk's recovery look like? And is Ayuk even in the long-term plans? Before they signed him the extension, there was a ton of trade rumors. He requested a trade. There was a lot of smoke that he was going to go to Pittsburgh. Yeah. Then you extended him. But even this offseason, I was seeing rumors that they were talking about trading both Ayuk and Deebo. Like they might want to just restart and retool that wide receiver room with a much cheaper options when you're going to have to pay Brock Purdy that money.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's still possible. It's just his value's definitely plummeted after the injury.
Oh, plummeted for sure.
Huge issue.
It's also like, where is he in his recovery? He got hurt pretty early on in the season. I believe it was in October. So, there's a decent chance he's ready for the start of the season. But, yeah, I wouldn't rule out a wide receiver. I just don't think it's going to happen at 11. Like, maybe Tet, but I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see Tet fitting the Shanahan offense.
They could trade back too and just get more picks as well. Or they
you keep saying you want people to trade back. You haven't said a team that could trade up for it. You're like, I wouldn't mind this team trades back.
No, I
haven't heard you say once a team that, hey, I wouldn't mind if they moved up.
No, it's the more quarterback needy teams that I would say could trade up. Like,
who's moving up to 11 for Jackson Dart? Who are they jumping? Dallas? Miami?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know, man. It's so hard. It's so hard to say. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say where they'll go. I mean, they have so many key losses. I mean, you would think they could go edge there. Like, there's going to be a lot of guys there that you could go offensive line.
They could certainly go offensive line, especially tackle. Right tackle is still a problem for him last year. And Trent Williams, let's be honest, he's still a dog. But what is he, 38, 39? Like, how much more does he have in the tank? So tackle is certainly in play.
Safety's a little too early there to replace Hufanga. Like, I don't think I could see them going Starks there.
Yeah, I wouldn't go Starks. I mean,
maybe they go Will Johnson, to replace
Ward. Ding. That is what I have in Big Tong's Mock 1.0.
Wow.
Will Johnson slides to the Niners at 11, and you know what? I just think it's too good of a player to pass up. With Lenore in the slot, you got Johnson, who missed a lot of 2024, but he was legit in 2023. And that's your Charvarius Ward replacements. You were the number 5th ranked passing defense last year, but you lose Charvarius Ward. Big loss. Let's replace him with Will Johnson. It's a premium position. You're going to have to save money with the Purdy extension. Drafting premium positions high in the first round is a smart way to go to achieve that. And I think Will Johnson would be a home run for the Niners.
Yeah, no, that's why I said it, because I like home runs.
I was waiting for you. Dude.
But yeah, no, I mean, they've obviously just lost so many key guys on that defense between Ward, Greenlaw, Hufanga. So you would have to imagine that would be definitely a key emphasis there. Would be replacing either the secondary or a linebacker. I think a lot of their draft in those, like I said, eight of those 11 picks are in top 5 rounds. So I think a lot of those picks are going to be, taken on the defensive side of the ball to really plug in those guys, and hopefully they hit on a couple of guys there.
Another pick I think could be a home run, but in my scenario, he was not on the board, would be Will Campbell out of LSU, because
Yeah,
I
I
think
doubt
you
it,
could
but yeah.
I think you could start him like either at right tackle or you play him at left guard right next to Trent Williams, and he gets to learn from Trent Williams and then bump him out to tackle, and he's your long-term solution on the left side. I think Will Campbell would make a lot of sense too and would be a great pick for him.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt he's there, but like, yeah, if he falls, like 100%.
Yeah,
Or
I think
really,
that,
I mean, any of those guard tackle type guys aren't
yeah,
bad
like
to learn with Trent Williams there.
a guy like Josh Simmons from Ohio State too. Like I have him sliding in my draft, like just with the knee and the recovery. I don't think he's going to go as high, but from a pure tackle perspective, he probably would have been the first, if not the second tackle taken if he didn't tear his knee up. So I think that would be a decent pick as well, because you could play him on the right side and then move him over to the left once Trent Williams retires. Like offensive line is very much in play here for the Niners, but they have so many picks that it's like you can get kind of some more interior offensive linemen on day 2 and 3, where a premium position corner like Will Johnson at number 11, I think is just too good to pass up.
Yeah, I mean, it'll definitely be ancient. I don't know, man. The 49ers are in such a weird spot because part of me wants to say, like, even with all these losses, like, this is a team that's going to go back and win the division, and Kyle Shanahan's going to fix everything, and they're going to be back to being the dominant force. And it's also part of me is like, look at how much loss this team has. Like, how are they going to be able to compete when they just don't have the talent they once had? They have so much money tied up into their few star players that it's like, where are you going to go when you're paying Bosa, Warner, McCaffrey, and Trent Williams, George Kittle? Like, they're paying like a few guys, and they just have so many holes. So this draft is massive for Lynch and Shanahan. Like, they have
massive.
so many picks. If they hit on a couple of these guys that can have impacts as rookies, like, yeah, they could be the team that's like, flirting in the playoffs and, maybe gets back into the Super Bowl. But if they just totally whiff on most of those picks, we could be looking at another 6-11 season.
I agree. Let's get Drock in here for some questions. Drock, what do we got tonight?
One question for you guys. Maybe another one. I'm going to ask you this one first. Does the Niners rely too heavily on its defense to make up for its offensive inconsistencies?
I mean, their offense was better than their defense last year, so I don't know about that. But, they were the 13th scoring offense. It didn't seem like it, given all the injuries that they had, but they were still able to keep a pretty productive run game with those guys behind McCaffrey. Yeah, Purdy took a step back. He didn't have the same weapons out wide, but, Reagan highlighted earlier the George Kittle season was awesome and really kept this offense afloat. Just his ability to affect both the run and the pass game are huge for this team. I don't know, man, because going into next year, I almost have more confidence in the offense than the defense.
Well, yeah, because the defense, like I said, lost to Ward, Hufanga, Greenlaw. Just some big losses there. So
and Hargrave too.
Hargrave, yep. I knew I was forgetting another one. So that's 4 of their 11 starters aren't even on the team anymore. And 2 of them in Denver. So that defense is going to be sick in Denver. But
it is going to be sick.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they had to rely on it because when you're missing, McCaffrey, Ayuk, and Trent Williams most of the season, like 3 of your key guys, even Pearsall wasn't there. And then even Mason steps up and then you lose him. There was just a lot of injuries on the offensive side of the ball where, you needed your defense to step up in some of these games to even give you a chance. And, that's why we saw Purdy have some, even though while I felt like he took a step back, he had some big games because they were trailing in a spot that, most of the years with Kyle Shanahan, they're in control, they're running the ball, and, they didn't have that luxury because, the offense wasn't as good to give them those big leads.
That's a good point. It was always like, hey, Purdy, what does he look like when they're playing from behind? Because although a very small sample size, because that Niners team in 2023 was like never playing from behind, but you were like, damn, when they were, Purdy wasn't great. So, when he actually had to like drop back and pass like all day, and he's not working off that play action in the run game with McCaffrey, like what is he going to look like? And it wasn't as good. He did have some decent games playing from behind, but still, I'm not the most confident in Brock Purdy if he's got to drop back and throw the ball 40, 50 times to win you a game.
Yeah, for sure. Dave or Jock, you had another question?
Stupid question, but I'm just going to fire it. Would the 49ers have won a Super Bowl by now if they drafted Patrick Mahomes instead of sticking with Jimmy Garoppolo?
I mean, yeah, dude, what the fuck? They lost to Mahomes. That plug in Mahomes instead of Jimmy G. Plug in Mahomes instead of Brock Purdy. Like, they lost to the guy twice. Like, yeah, they would have won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, you would think. It's so hard to.
Dude, they would have won a Super Bowl. People were arguing the Niners were the best team in the league. It's just they couldn't beat Mahomes. Now put Mahomes on the best team in the league.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's
great question, Trock. I mean, yeah, I think it's certainly rhetorical, but yeah, I think they get one done.
Said stupid question. I said stupid question.
Yeah, I mean, you would think probably. I mean, the one thing I hate about these hypotheticals, it's like you just don't know, like, when these quarterbacks go to different situations, like what would they turn out like? Like some guys get put in such good situations where they just totally blossom and the franchises do everything right. And I guess in this situation, like Kansas City and San Francisco are great organizations, so you expect them to do the right things. But then you look at other guys that, were drafted and failed, and, like looking at some of the biggest busts over the years, it's like, well, if they were put in better situations on other teams, like, would they have been a bust?
It's also like when a bad team passes on a quarterback, and then you see rumors like years after, like coaches coming out that are now fired, like, oh yeah, like I was banging the table for him, like I wanted him to be my quarterback. Like, for example, like I know, like Ben McAdoo was like, oh, I wanted us to trade up and get Mahomes. I mean, he was the Giants head coach, right? And everyone's like, oh, we could have had Mahomes. Oh, and it's like, okay, but it's Mahomes if he's playing under Ben McAdoo and then Pat Shurmur. Like, I don't know, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, It's also like, is Josh Allen if he didn't go to Buffalo and didn't?
Well, that's what I say, and people are like, oh no, they're a great quarterback. Like, of course they'd be good. And it's like, are you sure? Like,
I think it's both. It has to go hand in hand.
It's both, but I feel like it's more situation.
You have to have the talent. You have to be wired right up here in the noggin. But also, situation is so important. And every quarterback that succeeded in the NFL will tell you the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, for the most, I mean, you look at some guys that like, over the years are very talented, but just not in the right situations. It's like, Johnny Manziel, Tim Tebow, very talented if they were in better situations.
Wow, those are bad ones to pick because those guys weren't even like. They didn't have like your stereotypical like mechanic. Like mechanically, they were flawed.
All right, Will Levis,
like
they
very
had
talented
a lot of flaws. If he's in a better situation.
Like those are two very
polarizing
prospects.
What about Will Levis? You put Will Levis in a better situation. Like, is he, very, I don't know.
How about Sam Darnold? If you put Sam Darnold in a better situation, he wasn't drafted to the Jets at 3rd overall, right? Like, that's a good one.
Josh Rosen too, like
Josh Rosen, he just never even got another crack at it, dude. Everyone was just like, I think we're good after
him
a
and
year.
Steve Wilkes were just donezo.
Yeah, that was a rough year for Arizona. I forgot we didn't mention that. But all right, guys, that wraps up our San Francisco 49ers 2024 season recap. A season to forget, and perhaps an offseason to forget as well with the amount of legends that have been gone from this team now. But hey, it's a new year in 2025, Niners fans. You got to be optimistic. You got a lot of draft picks. Like and comment, and let's go win this draft, huh? Will Johnson season.
Yeah, no, thank you for listening, everybody. What a great pod here at Around the Felt. We bring that energy all the time. Whoa! Boom! Boom! Thanks for listening. Amazing stuff.